Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient slash survivor. Been dealing with cancer since early 2021, doing very well. And just to let you know what's going on, we've been dealing with some very cold weather here in Texas, and it got down to the coldest I've ever been in. It was down one day, it was this past Monday, it went down to like 8 degrees with a -30 wind chill factor, which is really, really cold. Yeah, I was not staying outside very long and it was uh, very chilly. We did have some pipes freeze, had some hot water pipes freeze in the house, and we didn't have washing machine working for a couple of days, but everything's back. Everything's um, working out well. So, and then now tomorrow it's supposed to be like 80 degrees. So we've gone from in a week we've gone from super cold to really nice. So it's going to feel like a summer day tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. But I am so excited. This is the first time that I've had the opportunity to do this. I am welcoming back, after a period of time, I am welcoming back a gentleman I did an interview with a couple of years ago, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but I am just so thrilled and so happy at who he is, who he's become. And I'd like to reintroduce to you a gentleman. I consider him a friend. He's in uh, close proximity. We haven't connected quite yet, but sure hope we do. His name is Mike Starks, and he's from Dallas. And so they're about 2.5 hours away from us, but he's actually in Michigan right now, I believe. So, Mike, please share with us who you are and tell us your story.
Great. Thank you, Mark. It's such an honor to be on your show and to know you as a friend. And as I've told you a couple of times now, I believe God put you in my life and probably saved my life after my cancer diagnosis. So it's an honor. So thank you for allowing me to share my story. Um, and I hope and pray that this story for me talking tonight will reach or touch someone the way your interview did 3 years ago when I saw you and saw you on the internet. But I'll tell my story. I'll try to hit all the high and low points and just be as transparent as possible. I'll probably start crying. Um, as Mark and I were talking before this started recording, we were talking about the highs and lows, the emotional, the psychological, the physical, the spiritual, when you're diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I went into the hospital of November of 22 and had broken my hip and had no clue I had cancer. But they told me I had a broken femur and a broken hip, and that cancer had eaten through it, which I couldn't believe because I was always a healthy person. So got a new hip, a 10-inch rod down in my femur, came out of the hospital, and was told in December of 22 that I have stage 4 and that my cancer, my prostate cancer, had spread. It's about 26 spots throughout my body, in my back, ribs, shoulders, both hips. And so the day I was told I had stage 4 cancer, I went to the doctor alone. My wife was traveling, and my doctor said, I like my doctors, I have wonderful doctors, but my doctor said, what you have is really bad. And if you choose to do nothing, you'll be dead within 12 months. But if you do what we say, we can keep you alive for 3, 5, maybe 10 years. And until you've ever heard that, I know Mark has, but until you've had a doctor tell you you have stage 4 cancer, that it's terminal, um, there's nothing like it. So I went out in my car and I sat in my car for about an hour, staring at my dash, and I just said, "Okay, God, this is it. There's there's nothing I can do. I mean, this is stage 4 cancer." And so then and because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, um, I wasn't sad about dying. I was sad about being away from my wife and my daughters. That was the hard part for me, was the thought of being without them. So um, I contemplated for about an hour, should I tell my wife how bad it is? And there's nothing that prepared me or can prepare any of us for being told that we have terminal cancer. There's nothing, because it's surreal. You're in disbelief, and why me, or how? And so anyway, I told my wife, when I got home. She came home a couple days later, told her and my three daughters, my grown daughters, and we all cried. And when they cried, I even cried harder. And to hear your daughters, your grown daughters say, "Dad, we don't want you to die." And then my wife, who told me that she didn't want to live any longer if I wasn't on this earth. That to me was one of the hardest things I'd ever heard, because yes, I don't want to be without my wife, but I know that when I die, I want my wife to live on and have a great life. And so anyway, I experienced this crazy round of emotions, and that I'd never experienced in my life, because you're literally looking at death. And so um, from that point forward, I was on YouTube 8 hours a day, and on Google, 10 hours a day total on the internet, trying to figure out what can I do to extend my life, to save my life, or whatever. Because I knew I had to start radiation in, I think, January, um, and then chemo a few weeks after that. And so, not having cancer, I know nothing about it, knew nothing about it. And so I go online, and I'm reading, buying books, and I'm trying everything, vitamins. And I think it was in January, or February, when I was on YouTube one day. I come across this guy, Mark, who my friend Mark, and I'm watching this video, and I don't know if it was God or what, but something said you can trust him. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to him. I doubt I'll ever hear from him, but I'm going to reach out to him. And I feel like he is telling my story, because he had stage 4 prostate, and then it is spread into the bones and lungs, which mine's only into my bones, ribs and back, but not to my lungs yet. um, but I felt like, okay, God, I'm going to reach out. So I reached out to this guy. And Mark, I can't remember how I got your contact information, but through the internet, figured it out. Mark emailed me within an hour or two, and I was so excited. And I told my wife, because Mark said, "Well, let's talk tonight." So I was so excited, because when you get stage 4 cancer, or when you get any cancer, not just stage 4, but when you get any cancer, you want relief, you want help, you want answers, you want support, and you try anything. And Mark and I were talking about before this, that you will try pills, you'll try witch's brew, you'll try anything to extend your life or to keep the pain away. And so anyway, Mark and I talked that night for about an hour, and he walked me through his story. Um, and he was in a lot more pain than I ever went through. But he shared with me some of the things he had tried on from diet, exercise, just some different things that really helped me. And so that for me, it was more than just the diet and the physical, Mark. It was knowing that I had a brother who has, and you're a couple years older than me, right? So knowing I had an older brother that's been through
You didn't
what
have to
I
mention that, Mike.
I know, we're old guys, but you are older than me. But but to me, it was an emotional support and a confidence booster that okay, this isn't the end of the world. I've got somebody that's going to help walk me through this, and I can really rely upon, which when you have cancer is so important to have somebody around you that you can ask questions, cry, cuss, whatever, because you're going to go through this range of emotions. And so Mark was the one. I went through radiation, and my doctors didn't tell me that radiation would be tough, but radiation drains it out of you. I mean, it just knocks you down. And every night I come home and I just want to sleep, and your urine smells like battery acid and it's just horrible. Uh, and then I was scheduled to go into chemo, and because of Mark's a lot of the his honey mixture and teas and some of the things I was doing, I told my doctor, I said, I'm going to put off chemo. And my doctor said, you know, you can do whatever you want, but if we get to a point, I'm going to really push you toward chemo. And so I said, that's fine. So, you know, at this point, um, I was still eating a lot of meat. And I grew up eating meat, and I'd heard that eating a plant-based diet when you have cancer is the way to go, but I refused to believe that. And so the pain that I was experiencing because of meat, I didn't know it at the time, but it was causing awful pain. There were days where I couldn't walk. And so, talking to Mark and remembering I had a gentleman 30 years ago in Colorado that had gotten cancer. And I remember he had gone to a plant-based diet. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this plant-based diet. And I did. And when I finally, it took me about 90 days to get through it. But once I got through it, it was a game changer. So I was just telling Mark earlier that if now, when I go to a restaurant, I can eat one or two bites of red meat or pork or chicken and it won't bother me. But anything more than that, it will really hurt me. And so my wife and I know that I'm eating salads and lots of vegetables. And so, you know,
Let me make a point right here because you're
yeah,
bringing
go
up a
ahead.
great point. Uh, Everybody is different. You
That's
know,
right.
we're all different
That's
and
right.
we all react to things differently. And so
Yes.
what's important in a cancer journey is to make that journey yours. You know, what works for Mike may not work for me. What works for me
Yes.
may not work for Mike, but Mike figured it out what works for him. And that's the big point of this is you need to figure out what works for you. And you know, a doctor can't tell you this. You know your body better than anybody else. Listen to what it's telling you. Listen to what you're feeding it because I'm to the point where I'm on such a rigid diet. If I eat something uh, I know that I shouldn't have eaten. I know within minutes I shouldn't have eaten that. Sometimes you don't have a choice if you're traveling
Yeah.
or you know if you're in a point where you're just starving and there's nothing else around but eating whatever it is in front of you, then you know you have to understand that sometimes you may have to accept the consequences of that. But that is such a great point that you made. You figured out what exactly works for you. So I wanted to throw that in because everybody is different. Everybody Some people go well with a complete plant-based diet. I was a vegan prior to having cancer,
Right.
and I incorporated organic beef, organic chicken, organic turkey, and wild salmon, and
Right.
that works great for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wouldn't work great for Mike. It's just,
Yeah.
we're all physiologically different. So sorry for interrupting you there,
No,
Mike,
that's
but
and
go
Mark,
ahead.
that's a great point. If anybody's listening to this, let me tell you how one of the things I learned, and it's exactly what Mark was saying. There's a lady down in Houston who's a doctor, and she has a research center. And one of the things she says was that everybody's different. Some people can be keto and their cancer responds great to keto. Some people can be carnivore and their body their cancer responds great to carnivore. Some people respond better to plant-based. And so I was praying, please let me be carnivore, please let because I love meat so much. But I will say this to your point, Mark. I can eat wild fish, doesn't faze me. If I eat farm raised fish, it kills me.
Mhm.
Um, I can eat wild fowl like pheasant or duck, totally fine. If I eat like deer meat, totally fine. But if I eat cattle, cow, pork, or chicken that's been commercially slaughtered and raised, it's just my body is so sensitive to the toxins or whatever's in that meat. I can't eat those things. So you're right. Everyone has to figure out what works for them. And to me, one of the things I learned was that at the oncologist, they'll tell you, oh, you can eat anything you want. You can eat donuts, you're fine. You can drink whiskey, you're fine, or whatever. And that's not true, right? At least for me and most of the guys that I know that have stage four are like, nah, you can't eat anything. You have to really cut out most sugars and alcohol. But you know, recently, Mark, I watched a Netflix special when I was flying back from home the other day or a couple of weeks ago, and it was called, I think, Scamanda, and it was about this Instagram lady who faked having cancer, and she had hundreds of thousands of followers. And there's another Netflix special called Apple Cider Vinegar, and it's about this girl in Australia who faked stage four brain cancer. And as I watched these ladies that were faking cancer, I know why they did it because when I tell people now that I have cancer, the first thing they say, oh, well, are you in remission? And I go, no, unfortunately, I have stage four. And they grab, are you okay? Do you need me to help you walk? I'm like, no, I'm fine. The attention you get or this sympathy, because we don't know, like when we get stage four cancer, we think it's the end of the world. So when people hear that we have stage four cancer, they think we're handicapped. Um, and so I understand why they did it for the attention and the money and the fame or whatever. I can't imagine that's an extreme to do to fake that. Um, but the reason I bring it up is now when I go into a new client's office, one of the first things I tell them, because I'm there for several weeks, is I say, look, I'm just being forthright. I have stage four cancer. So one day out of a month, I may not be here or I may be hobbling around because I'm in a little bit of pain. So I just tell them that I'm not dying or I am, we're all dying, but I'm just, but I'd love to talk about it. And so now I use it because I meet so many people now traveling around the country who has a relative or a spouse or a child or a neighbor who has cancer, and as cancer patients, we, like you said, once you get cancer, you become educated and familiar with all the emotional, spiritual, physical, psychological battles. And now when I meet somebody that shares their cancer, I tear up because it's because of the battles we've been through, right?
Hmm.
I mean, all the pain and the suffering and the mental anguish and the why me's and I'll tell you, probably the greatest gift. I look at cancer as a gift because of my wife and I, our relationship. We've been together 28, 29 years, and I love my wife and my kids. But once I got cancer, boy, it took our relationship to a whole nother level. And I tell everybody that, and my wife doesn't like me to say this, but if I die in the next 2 or 3 years, it's the greatest gift my relationship with my wife that cancer has given me, and it's made it worth it. So I look at this trade off of the pain and the crap I have to go through and my relationship, my wife and I now, people say, you guys act like you're teenagers dating. You're laughing all the time. You're always holding hands. You want to be together. And, you know, uh, I- I'm just so grateful for my wife now. And it's hard to explain. And I know you know that this, Mark, but I try to look at the silver lining of cancer. And so um, I know there were 3 or 4 months where you couldn't even walk. And now when I walk down to the store, I'm just grateful to be able to walk down to the store instead of having a walker or a cane, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
grateful to be able to get up off the toilet by myself. I mean, all the stuff we go through, God shows us that we have a lot to be grateful for. And so, you know, I'm actually grateful for a lot of ways in cancer because there are so many parts of me that was just ungrateful and just took for granted my wife or kids or life in general. And now I'm grateful literally for every minute. And so, my journey has been the has been I kind of look at everything that cancer, every door it's opened for me, meeting you, Mark, having you kind of walk me through the initial stages of what I'm going to go through, feel, think, whatever, and your encouragement and your constant, you're always reaching out to me, checking up on me. Um, the things with my wife, my children, uh, it's to me has been a now I look at it as a wonderful journey. And so I don't know if I have 3 years to live. I don't know if I have 1 year to live. But I feel that I'm just grateful. I don't want to die soon, but at the same time, I've kind of accepted it. And we can talk about this as cancer patients without sounding morbid, or it's just how you just learn to talk about it and you learn to accept it. And I think as a believer in Christ, it makes it a lot easier to accept, right? So I will say, I
Let
was
me
telling
step
you,
in. Let me
yeah,
step
go
in
ahead.
right here because when Mike and I first talked, what impressed me about you was, I suggested, certain things, and you checked out my diet video, and you started immediately going and gathering things, and so I was like, oh, he's serious. And when I see a person is serious, then you know, I'll do anything to help them. And so my question for you is, I hear this about your relationship with your wife and your kids. What would your wife and kids say?
That's a great question. My my wife would say it's we're the happiest we've ever been, but she doesn't she doesn't want to live if I'm not on the earth. And that's when she still tells me that, that makes me very sad because I want my wife, I look at my wife as my best friend, and I want her to be so happy, even if that means marrying somebody once I'm gone, right? I want her to be happy. And I've told her, I'm a season in her life, you know? And once I'm gone, she's like, no, I'm not getting married again, and da 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 da. But, she would say, it has brought us together. We have put aside all the silly, petty little things we thought, the little battles we wanted to win, or the things we would worry about. We've put all those aside, and we just honor and cherish the time we have together. And what my kids would say is, I'm proud to say my daughters love me very much. I know that. Um, and they don't want me to die either. Uh, so, it's one of those things again, and it's so hard for people to understand unless they're faced with terminal cancer where there's no reversal. And you we have learned to accept. We cried for 3 or 4 weeks when I was first diagnosed, and then we finally realized crying does no good. It just makes us depressed, sad, and have a pity party. So we started saying, okay, I'm gonna use the cancer card every chance I get so that you have to do things for me. And that's what we turned it into, Mark, was that I'll say things like, you remember I'm dying of cancer? And they'll go, Dad, why, you can't. And I'm like, no, you gotta go run by pick me up that salad or whatever. And so we use it as something that we laugh about. And deep down, yes, we know that it kind of makes us sad, but at the same time, we can't let it ruin our lives. And so I don't know. Does that answer your question? I mean,
Absolutely. In fact, I think this conversation is so awesome. I really do. Would you like to come back for a part two to this? Because there's so much more that I want to discuss with you.
absolutely. I'd love to,
Okay,
Mark.
that'd be great. Um, because to hear, the progression of your loved ones and yourself and the growth that you've had through this experience, it just means the world to me. It really does. I am so happy that you're have such a wonderful relationship with your wife and your family that means everything, and you're still here for them. So that's absolutely incredible. What would you like to leave our audience with as far as today as, the most important thing that you want to impress on them?
If you're listening to this and your loved one has been diagnosed recently, or you have cancer and you're struggling, reach out to Mark. Um, and I'm being serious, Mark, because I reached out to several people when I was diagnosed and no one ever responded back. And it's a very lonely, scary feeling. You don't know if you're going to be alive in 6 months. Yet we have stage 4 cancer, right? And for you to to reach back to me within a day gave me the hope and confidence that someone's cares. And so if your listeners are listening and they want to reach out to me, that's fine. But Mark's got a lot more experience, and he's older. And but seriously, that to me is it. If someone is listening to this and you're afraid, you don't have answers, or you need support, I would say reach out to Mark or to me, but I would say Mark's definitely the man. That's what I would leave the viewers with.
Let me add this to what you just said. We also have a group called the Cancer Conquering Community, and we meet every Thursday. on Zoom at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, and you've been there, you've spoken at that. And that's a great place to meet people and connect with people. Um, it's really starting to grow. We've grown our face. We have a private Facebook page. A month ago, Boyd had started this Facebook page.
Mm.
A month ago, it was 43 people in the group. And now we have, the last I saw, we have 236. So
Wow.
it's in the month, it's grown quite a
Wow.
bit, and we're planning on really pushing the growth. And
Mm.
last week, we had some powerful people in there. We had a lady in there who's got a website, and they have like something like 2 million subscribers to the website
Oh
or
my
something like
gosh.
that.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, I was blown away. So, I mean, we're
Yeah.
getting some really, we also have another gentleman who has a nonprofit, and, we're connecting with him, and we're
Yeah.
offering a free giveaway these next few weeks, um, that he's providing. So that that's a great place to connect with people, uh, who have been through cancer. And, again, cancer is not all, uh, it's not all a bed of roses. There are ups and downs. Unfortunately, we just lost a fine person, Jessica Wright, and I'll mention her name right now. She
Mm.
just passed away, and, she was actually one of our moderators. And just she had been battling cancer since she was born, essentially, and she was in her mid 30s, I believe. So, you know, that's part of the deal, but, just to see the spirit and the purpose of this channel and the purpose of Cancer Conquering Community is to provide hope
Yeah.
and inspiration to people, to help
That's right.
them believe that this thing can be beat.
Mhm.
And that's what is needed uh, today in today's world is the belief that this can be beaten no matter what you're being told,
Mhm.
and I'm so proud of you, Mike, and I'm so proud to call you my friend. um, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
If you, and this is totally unrelated to what we've been talking about,
Yeah.
if you had the opportunity and the power to make this world a better place, what would you do?
To make this world a better place. I mean, when you say better, I mean I'm thinking spiritually, physically, emotionally.
Whatever you want, whatever you want. How would if you had the opportunity and the power to do something, what would you want to see?
Mark, this is such a big question. Just one thing or a couple of
Just
things?
one thing or a couple things, whatever you want to say.
Well, I will say one thing from the food side. I owned a diet food company for several years, so I learned a lot about food ingredients. And now that I have cancer, if I eat like frozen French fries or French fries from McDonald's, they have so many ingredients in them. It kills me. My body responds. And so I would make everything like over in Spain and Portugal, almost everything you eat over there is organic, right? So I would change our commercial food processes, and hoping Bobby Kennedy will do that
Yes.
uh, because our children cancer rates right now are just going through the roof with kids, and I'm a huge believer. that 90% of that cause is because of the foods that we in America consume. So that's the one thing. Um, I'll tell you the second thing is I'm in an Amish populated area where there's a lot of Amish, and I've turned or I've really come to love these people a lot. And just because they look odd with their beards and their hats and their clothes, they believe the same thing that believers believe in, the doctrine that Christ is the Son of God and He's the only way through to God through salvation. Uh, but what I admire about them is they have no TV, no internet. And let me tell you what, their 15-year-old boys are more mature than most of our 40-year-old men in the English community. And so I see that and I envy that a lot and they're extremely healthy because they eat what they kill, they eat what they grow. And so, I know my wife tells me, don't ever become Amish, but I don't know. Those things as I'm getting older, Mark, it's to simplify and, it's to simplify things in life. There's a lot to be said for that. And I think that goes also with the ingredients of our food. So
Really,
that's,
really well said, Mike.
well,
Great.
thank
In
you.
fact, I asked many people the same question, and you're the first person who said that, but it makes total sense. Absolute total sense. Mike Starks, thank you so much for spending time with me and our audience. Really appreciate it. We're going to bring you back and continue the conversation because there's so much more.
Absolutely.
And the transformation in you has just been profound. When you and I first met, there was so much hesitation and so much doubt, and you're just brimming with confidence, and I love to see that. And thank you so much for all that you've shared. Really
Well,
appreciate it.
thank you, Mark. And our first time, I think our first interview, I weighed about 45 pounds less. So I probably looked worse. So anyway, but thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for your time. And thanks to everyone out there for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comment section of the video, ring the notification bell, and appreciate life. I know Mike and I appreciate life. We appreciate every single day because every single day is a blessing. And, we only go around once. Let's make the most out of each and every day because that's why they call today the present, because it is a gift. Make the most out of each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you next week on To Be Your Own Hero. Thank you very much.